things that I actually have to speak on. There are certain establishments, there's certain businesses that are more than just a business. There are these staples of our community, of our history, of our culture. And this place, I remember so well that this was a place that my father always visited. This was his place. This was his one-stop shop. If you guys have ever heard of Denzil Electronics, then you know we're of a certain age, right? So this is where it all started with electronics and services of this nature in Tobago. As a matter of fact, Denzil Electronics is such a staple of Tobago. It started in 1980. Do you guys believe it? And I have the privilege of speaking to the owner, proprietor, and the founder of this wonderful business. Mr. Denzil White joins us on the brunch set this morning, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation. So let me just take the time to say good morning to you.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for being a part of brunch. So, Denzil Electronics. Now, we were talking before we came back from the break, and it has been such a staple of the community. Tell me how you started, how you got into the business.
Well, I started electronics, believe it or not, in 1966. Now, I just came out of school, and that is primary school. Now, I am one of those who never went to a secondary school.
Right.
I went to primary school, and I got interested in electronics. So I started electronics. Now, in those days, there weren't many options to, do electronics. Like now, where there are many repair shops and many people involved in electronics. So I started a course from Bennett Emile College in London in 1966. I think I paid the cost of the course was $85. But it was theory only. I did basic theory, so I have a very good background in theory. Unlike now, people just dabbling into electronics without having
The proper training.
Background in theory. And
yes.
So I did that. Now, subsequently, I may not be able to give all the details. Subsequently, I got to know someone who was involved in electronics. So in 67, I started, going around with him, doing his repairs, going at his home from time to time. In those days, it was mainly radio. There were few TVs at the time. As a matter of fact, there were only privileged people who had TVs in those mid-late 60s.
Yeah.
And of course, it was black and white.
Yes.
Now, subsequently, I started home at Blackrock, where I live. I started, doing repairs and that sort of thing. Right. Even somewhere between there, I went to J.N. Harriman came to Tobago. That was in 1969. So the guy who I was around with, and I used to do my little thing at home, I find I wasn't getting enough exposure and enough practice and that sort of thing. So I got into Harriman's, and I spent about just over 4 years there. But Harriman left Tobago in January of 1974. Now I had the option to go to Trinidad, but I chose not to. Because somewhere along the line, though I was a young person, like 23, but I don't think that Trinidad was the right environment for me. So I thought it best to stay in Tobago. So I stayed in Tobago. So I started, doing more repairs. I was doing work on vehicles, installing decks, and that sort of thing. I started installing a few decks and speakers and a little parts at home and that sort of thing. And as time goes on, 1980, what I did, I came into Scarborough. There was a space for rent that is upstairs where Spence Plaza is now. But in those days, it was Food Lab. That was one of the early restaurants in Scarborough. It was on Wilson Road. In those days, Wilson Road it was far different to what it is now.
Yes,
There was
yes.
a breadfruit tree across the road and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember Food Lab. Food Lab had the best fries. Oh my gosh, that's what I remember. On Fridays, my dad would go there and he would bring home chicken and chips from Food Lab. That's one of my memories. And Buddies, which was also an NIB mall.
But these were subsequently around
Yeah.
83, 84.
Yeah, I remember those two.
Right. So I came in Scarborough. No, the rent in those days was $250. Now my parents told me, boy, you're going into Scarborough to pay a rent. You're home here, you're not paying any rent. But I feel, somewhat stunted at home in that, and I think my parents were inconvenienced too, because our living room was a repair shop. And it was unfair to all of us,
Yes.
Christmas time, we tend to put away things to make the place look a little acceptable. But it was inconvenience for all of us.
Yes.
So I came into Scarborough paying the rent of $250. In those days, $250 was
Like
a tidy sum here
thousands.
because you were charging about $30 to repair television. And you are radio might charge about $15, $10 as the case might be according to what it is. And but I chose it best to come into Scarborough. But by then I started selling 1 and 2 little appliances like a little car deck, speakers. I even started selling a few black and white TVs. Right. And around that time, color TVs just started coming in. So I started selling the other color TV. I might have 1 or 2 sets in stock, the kind of thing, in case, I get an unusual purchase. I have it readily available. Or sometimes I might store things at home, depending on where it is, and that sort of thing. Right. But I always wanted more space, and I wanted to expand. So there comes a now. I came in February 1980. I came in upstairs Food Lab. So in March 28th of 1983, I went to NIB Mall.
So 1983 is when you did the move
I did
to
the
NIB.
move from upstairs Food Lab
Right.
to
NIB.
NIB Mall. When I went on NIB Mall, I was the youngest individual there. I was bordering 33. I was 32 going on 33.
Right.
Right. So much to say, when I came in town, I wasn't 30 yet. When I came in town from Black Rock, that's all I think. Right. So I spent 30 years at NIB Mall. And I mean, during that time, there was a time when I used to go and do house repairs, go with people at different times, that sort of thing. Because I used to repair car decks, TVs, stereos, all that sort of thing. I even used to go as far as Charlottesville at times to do repairs. So, but having a fixed location, it's more convenient. You can reach more people. Notwithstanding, I still used to do some outside service, might be after hours on weekends, that sort of thing. Now during that time, I started, going to Trinidad and shopping. Because I changed my vehicle. I got a vehicle, which was a big wagon then, a Kingswood station wagon, which I had for 16 years. So I used to go to Trinidad, bring up goods and offload and that sort of thing. And I mean, I was young at the time. In the early 30s, you could afford to work hard.
Yeah.
Because my days were very long. Sometimes they go as late as midnight. But you find when I'm going to Trinidad, the day when I'm going to collect goods, I would go earlier. Of course, I would have cut off early. When I finished around 5 in the evening, I would just go and organize and get ready to go down. But I would catch a boat in the night. Those were the T-stin and the Geltin. It was very efficient and it was very convenient in that the boat used to leave around 11 o'clock, 10, 11. You go down, You come off the boat 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would start hustling. I just catch a bath and start hustling from that time of in the morning and go right through until 9 in the night, catch a bath, and head for the boat.
Back up the roads.
And I will come up on the boat. Believe it or not, I will come. The boat would reach in about 4:30. I would offload my vehicle. Myself alone, no one with me. Sometimes I make about 30-40 trips up the Babstack on NIB Mall, finish, and I would go home and come back and do a normal day, which can be anything like 8:30, 9 o'clock, right back to midnight. But you know, you're young at the time.
But the passion, because I'm listening to you speak, and there's a passion that you have. There's a love that you have for what you do. And so even though it was challenging because you would have been by yourself, you would have had to do all of the heavy lifting. There was no assistance. There was no form of help, but you had a focus and you had a goal that you were working towards. And it was, I wouldn't say that it's rare to have people that look like me in business, but you are one of the few that, chartered into that, and you're still doing it for today. What was it like in the early days when you started Denzil Electronics? When you moved to NIB, was it a different pace? Was it a different clientele? What was it like when you did the big move?
Now, let me recap a bit. Now, when I came into Scarborough, I would dare say I started off with my sister. Amelia White started off with me.
Okay.
And of course, I will have to always thank her because she was one who assisted me in the early years, and she was with me from 1980 until 2012.
Okay.
Right. But was she alone, more or less? I was the technical person, and she was more or less like the clerk and doing the little book
business side
and that sort of thing.
Right.
And she was with me when I went across to NIB Mall as well. But the physical part of it, mainly it was myself. But just later in 1983, my little brother, my last brother, most people know him as Dwayne White Knight. Some people feel he's my son, but he's my last brother.
Okay, well, right. I learned something today.
Yes.
Thank you for the show. Yes, I'm very familiar with Dwayne.
Because normally people will give him message to give his father, and I will get it. People give me message to give my son, and he will get it.
Yeah.
Because we know where they're coming from. Well, see, it come from way back, and I used to drop him to school when he was at Scarborough Second Signal Hill from time to time. That sort of thing. Right. So he left school. So at the time, he left school in late in 83. So I thought it best, rather than leave him out there on his own, I think it best to put him under my wings and keep him occupied. Because needless to say, because my parents were pretty mature. They put him at a very late age.
So there was that age difference between you guys.
17 years.
Right, and so that's why people thought that you were his dad, as opposed to his brother. Yeah.
So he came with me and he assisted me and that sort of thing. But I never used to, force him to, come up, come in town early in the morning to offload and that kind of thing. So he was there. But he was more or less, kind of helping around and that sort of thing. And of course, that would have assisted him in developing a technical background as well. Granted, he would have done a little electronics and at Signal Hill.
Yeah.
But that was, basic.
But was he interested? Did it feel like you were forcing it on him, or was he interested in being a part of what you do?
He was interested, yes. He was interested. But he was always thinking and coming up with ideas and that sort of thing. And realized that eventually he went on his own. And I give him, space and opportunity for him to grow, and I actually I sort of nurture him as well.
Yes.
And today I can say I am proud to see what he has become.
I am very proud because I would have been around art and culture all my life, since the age of 7. And there's certain names that are synonymous with electronics, stage management, miking and lighting and stuff like that. And Dwayne has been around and doing such a wonderful job, and I know it has to do with some of the teachings that he would have gotten from you, some of the training, advice, but sometimes we have to innovate and we move out and do our own thing. But I think that it's a wonderful legacy, because we need to see ourselves being successful. What do you think about that, as African people, as black people?
Yeah, of course, because there's the opportunities are there, but regardless of whatever challenges maybe existing, we can succeed, because there are people who are successful in better circumstances than us, and there are people who even do better in worse circumstances.
Yeah.
So we should not allow challenges and obstacles to be an excuse for us not progressing or going forward.
Definitely.
But I must also say part of my success has to do in my training, and because of the environment in which I grew up, my parents. Notwithstanding, I grew up in an agricultural background and that kind of thing, because I grew up, mainly around, you've seen about animals and agriculture and that sort of thing. I grew up tough, finding out about catching crab and going to the market and sell, walking around selling avocados and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I've learned the idea of being thrifty. Because when there were 3 boys around my age, I was in the middle. And when we set crab trap and we catch the crabs, and I would come in town, I do not know, I was the one, just happened to be the one who come into Scarborough. I'm talking about, I wasn't 12 yet, and sell the crabs at the market. Those days the market was at James Park. We would carry the money home. I would go with him cash. We will divide it equally among 3 of us, regardless of how many crab each person caught, and we would have gone to the bank and saved the money. So we learn to be disciplined and manage funds and that kind of thing. And we were always busy. My father always say, you must always find something to do. And he always tell us, if you rest before you're weary, when you're weary, you can't rest.
Yeah, I like that.
So in other words, when someone is young, it's the time to work hard and hustle and prepare for when you get later on in life. Because later on in life, you may not be able to.
Yes.
Thank God, I'm in my 70s and I am still physically able.
Yes.
But only through the grace of God.
Definitely. And we are going to take a break, guys. We're going to be right back with more from Mr. Denzil White, owner, founder, proprietor of Denzil Electronics right here in Tobago. We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back with more Brunch, a taste of Tobago. See you guys soon. And we are back with Brunch, a taste of Tobago. And guys, it has been a wonderful conversation so far. Mr. Denzil White is here. Denzil Electronics, staple of our community, our business community, our history, our culture, you name it. And this wonderful establishment has been around for so long and still up and alive and well and kicking. And we get the chance to really speak to the man who is Denzil White. So welcome back to Brunch, a taste of Tobago.
Thank you.
And before we went to the break, you were talking about taking your brother under your wing. And it's amazing when you have support, the reaches that you can alleviate to. And this brings me to family. What was family life like for you? You mentioned the agricultural part, getting up and having to deal with the livestock and that sort of thing. But what was it like for you in your household as a boy growing up?
Well, as a boy, you did all sort of things. You play cricket, you play football, you had all these activities, these games, and that sort of thing. Of course, like let me go even way back. I had the opportunity to go to school without shoe.
Oh yeah. So did you walk to school?
I walked to school, Black Oak School.
Right.
So it was a Moravian school, and subsequently it was, I went 5 years at the Moravian school, and about 7 years at the government school. About 6 years at the government school.
So you ended at the government.
I ended at the government school, which was the primary school. Remember, we moved from the Moravian school to the Black Oak government school.
Yes.
Right. So, you know the usual thing, you tethering animals, you work in your garden, you're catching your crabs, and that sort of thing. You know, you're going to church. In those days, you know, you would walk from Black Rock to Plymouth to go to Anglican church.
Yes.
And that sort of thing. Subsequently, my mother sort of pioneered, and there was a cell of the Anglican church at Black Rock, which subsequently developed into the Black Rock Moravian Church, of which my mother laid the cornerstone, because she was an integral part of that.
Yeah.
So I had a sort of religious background. So you know, that sort of gives me, you know, some sort of, I grew up with, there was some integrity in me, you know, because that sort of thing. Because you have a religious background, that is critical to someone, you know, you're growing up and that kind of thing. Because religious conviction, it is very important. So it sort of keep you on track now, so you'll be disciplined and that kind of thing.
It gives you strength as well, strength of character.
Of course.
Yeah, it does.
It gives you strength of purpose. So we growing up, that sort of thing, and you know, playing cricket, playing football as boys, you know, a little competition and that kind of thing. Well, my mother, I am one of 7 siblings, but my eldest brother did not grow with us. He used to come and spend time with us. So 6 of us grew up together. Of course, Dwayne was really late. So Dwayne was around for part of the time, I would say.
Part of the journey.
Yeah, and he's 10 years younger than the one before him.
Yes.
Right.
So there was that space in there.
Right. But my parents always, you know, make sure that we stay on the right track, keep us on track, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Right. And my mother and father, you know, they were always together. So we had a sort of closely, you know, knitted family, that kind of thing. We disciplined, we grew up together, and that kind of thing. We play together, we live together, that sort of thing, and we were comfortable. And I know what it is I know about tough times. Because I grew up in a home without electricity and without a radio. So I had it rough. People talk about poverty, they do not know. I know it, I had it tough, I know what it is. What people taking for granted now is what was privilege. And those days, way back, there was a time when there were no telephones.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to even think about how that would be. It's like I can't even imagine.
When we came into, even when I came to upstairs Spence Plaza, then the election started in 80. There were no phones. When I went across NI Mall in 83, there was still no telephone. Telephones weren't available. It was some years after telephones came.
Yeah, and that's the ring around
one line, of course.
Yeah, where you had to put your finger and turn the circle.
And of course, when you calling a number within Tobago, there were 4 digits, so there was no code, there was no 639.
What?
So if you're calling Denzil Electronics, rather than say 639-3497, you dial 3497.
Wow. This is like so much history. I can't even imagine it.
Even prior to that, it might be startling to some of you. We used to leave Black Rock to come in town. I remember a young fella might have been in my early teens. Like you want to get a call to Trinidad, we used to call it an overseas call. You try to get a call to Trinidad. You come by the telephone exchange where TSTT is up now, uptown, and you did not get through tonight. Like 8 o'clock you come in town, you're coming back, you live in Black Rock and you're coming in Scarborough the following night to get an overseas call to Trinidad.
Wow.
So guys to tell you the opportunities and privilege we have now, and that is telling us how far we came from.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, one of the things that I absolutely love, you see the continuity, the legacy being passed on, because it's so important to have that legacy, to have that history, to have that devotion, praying together, as you said, that family devotion. These things so many of us take for granted, and they're so important to the development of someone's character. And you developed because of the teachings, because of the type of family life, the type of understanding that you had with your parents. And I'm saying this because we are lacking the human aspect. The human aspect is, we're losing it very, very slowly. We're losing it to all of the phones and the social media, and just being kind to one another, being courteous of each other. It's going out the window. I see so many young people now. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my young people. I love when they do wonderful things. But there are so many youngsters now that don't exercise those values that we hold so dear. Good morning, good afternoon, thank you. Basic, and we see it not happening. It's like slowly slipping away.
Yeah, because what does that mean? Generally, we are all operating in a world by ourselves, you know. Because when we get up in the morning, the technology.
Yeah.
So we sometimes people within our household, there are even problems in communicating with one another. As a matter of fact, sometimes we find ourselves making a phone call or communicating to someone within our household via the technology.
Yeah, and they could be right there, not even 2 feet away, but you're texting.
But added to that too, remember, we are building bigger houses and we are having smaller families.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are building bigger houses and we are raising smaller families. Now, I would like to use this opportunity to mention some of the challenges I had, during my lifetime, more or less, so recently. Well, as I said, before, because of my religious background and my faith in God, that would have helped me through. During the last, what I would say, transformation, because, NIB Mall was demolished.
Oh, yes.
In 2013.
Yes.
That is after me being there for 30 years. I was there longer than anyone else. No one else spent 30 years there. All the people who were at NIB Mall in 2013, when it was demolished, met me at NIB Mall. Including NIS, including Endeavors, including Parkers, everybody. When I went there, I met about 4 people. Also, that with that challenge and what NIB did, it was strange. We got 6 weeks notice telling us that the building will be demolished. Now
6 weeks.
Picture yourself being somewhere for 30 years.
Yeah, that's like a second
and you
home.
Get 6 weeks notice saying that the building will be demolished. Notwithstanding that, I personally had other challenges.
Of course.
Thanks to the glory of God and the mercies of God. My wife was sick at home, so I was getting some sleepless nights.
Yeah.
My children were at university studying during that period, so I had to grapple with all of that. So I had to move. Now, you have to move from NIB Mall, not knowing where you're going. But I know, of course, I was going to operate my business. Whether it meant going out of premises I didn't want to call, or operating from my vehicle or something like that. But God is so good.
All the time.
Right. One night I can remember I prayed, and the prayer, an opportunity came up where a location on Burnett Street. So I said, I wonder if this is the right place. But I looked at it. I'm telling you that we are leaving NIB Mall we started to demolish Monday. So we are moving out by Friday. So we have until Saturday to move out from the mall totally. Move out all you have. And here I am, up to Thursday, which is a couple days before, not knowing where I'm going. That time I'm offloading things, I'm carrying my things all over the place.
Yeah.
Some at home, some at a location in Lambo, and so forth. But an opportunity came up, which I said at Burnett Street. And I got up one morning and I prayed about it 4 o'clock. And I was directed divinely. God told me, take that opportunity. So I called my children and tell them, this is an opportunity and I think we should take it up. They agreed. And so I went uptown.
Oh, glory to God. Glory to God.
Of course.
Yeah, and you see, it brings me back to what we were talking about before, where your faith and your belief and that strength that you develop when you have that spiritual connection with the Almighty, it fuels you. It opens pathways that may not be opened otherwise. And it was as clear as day what you needed to do. It was like an instruction, telling you, okay, listen, Denzil, you are going to this location and this is where you're going to work from. It was so clear that pathway opened up. You felt relief?
Of course, I felt good because here you are Thursday, you do not know what you're doing. You only decide where you are going to go Friday morning. And lo and behold, I opened the Monday. The first day I sold $65.
Yeah.
But I was glad at least I was somewhere.
Yeah, and still operating.
Yeah, because no one knew where I was going. And you're talking about you unpacking and trying to find things. You're looking for things while you trying to sell people stuff. So that first day was really out. But I'll say thanks. I had 2 of my daughters with me. They were and they were so helpful. They assisted me.
So where can we find you? Because I know viewers are looking on, but we just want to make sure that we give them as much information as possible. Before we wrap really quickly, where can we find Denzil Electronics?
Well, I'm at Port Mall, 7A, first floor, Port Mall.
All right, so it's Port Mall, Scarborough, 7A, Unit 7A, first floor.
Yeah,
and there's where you're going to find Denzil Electronics. You guys should really come check them out. It's a wonderful place to shop. My husband just recently bought 2 speakers. He believes that everything has to come from Denz, just like my dad. So it's about the quality, it's about the standard. So Mr. Denzil White, thank you so much for being a part of Brunch today. I had so much fun talking with you. You had a good time?
Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to thank the people of Tobago. It's an opportunity to be serving people, serving the country and the island of Tobago since the mid-60s.
Yes.
And I would say the thing about business, which I always tell people, once you satisfy people's needs, your business will be successful.
Definitely.
The key about business is not about making money. Is about satisfying people's needs.
And you said it so well. Satisfaction guaranteed. We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back with more Brunch, A Taste of Tobago. But before I do that, let me just mention our trivia question for today. This species of turtle nests on our shores during this time of the year. The answer, of course, at the end of the show. We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back. Don't go nowhere. Come right back. See you guys soon.